Welcome to the Sports on Tap NEO High School Football Show. Be sure to join the conversation by liking us on Facebook and following us on Twitter at SOT Podcast. Use the hashtag SOTHSF. Here are your hosts, Rob Trump, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy.
Welcome to Sports on Tap. We're live from Z's Cream and Bean in Hinckley, Ohio, 2706 Boston Road. And it's right in between four cities, Strongsville, Brunswick, Hinckley, and North Royalton. And
well done, sir.
I know I switched it up a little bit.
Well done.
But it's our Ohio high school football coverage. Week 6 recaps. We cover the Greater Cleveland Conference, the Southwestern Conference, the Suburban League, and much more on the show. So a lot to get through and to go over here tonight.
As always, Week 6, we are 60% of the way done with the football season.
Unbelievable.
It's now, Ed, I think you said you might wait one more week, but it's getting time that we need to start religiously looking at Joe Itel's unofficial but official rankings.
They are official rankings. Let's just call it what it is. This is call it what it is. And Josh and I were. I was discussing with Josh on our way to our game of the week last week.
Yeah.
About whether when I was going to just kind of go just all in on these stats. But hopefully we'll have some. Other things going on next week, which will then hold that out for another week, depending on who may or may not be able to join us next week.
Yeah, and Ed had the opportunity to. Welcome back to Sports on Tap. We're live from Z's Cream and Bean in Hinckley. It's our Week 6 recaps in high school football. We're part of the NEOSportsInsiders.com as well. SportsOnTapPodcast.com if you want all of our high school football coverage, whether it's podcasts, videos, also our Game of the Week stories and write-ups. At SOT Podcasts on Twitter. We have Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're all over the place, so most of our podcasts are archived on YouTube, so if you want to go there, I know we had a few people at the North Royalton game asking how we archived our shows. YouTube is one way. Also here on Mixlr, they archive all of our shows as well, so you can go back and listen to them. But without further ado, he's my cohort. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. But let's head over to the Suburban League where Ed Dick, he's doing double duty for Sean Duffy, who always does a great job. But now, man, hopefully you have a lot of breath of air over there.
Well, I decided to get a chocolate milkshake and to commemorate this. Sean likes to give out chocolate milk for his great efforts. So I figured I would prepare by giving myself a chocolate milkshake.
Did you pour a little out for Sean's absence?
It's a little thick. I don't want to pour it on my shoulder.
Just pour it in that
I think he would prefer me consume it instead of drop it on the ground.
Exactly.
So we'll start the third week of conference play in Twinsburg for a Thursday night tilt between the Twinsburg Tigers, 3-2 overall, 1-1 in the conference, and the Brecksville Broadview Heights Bees. Man, that's good, Sean.
Yeah.
Also 3-2 overall, 1-1 in the conference. Twinsburg had a very quick turnaround, having just played on Saturday night. So they only had about 4 days to rest before they had to get back at it and play in the game. But the Tigers pounced on the Bees early in the first quarter with a 35-yard touchdown pass from quarterback Adam Vandemotter to wide receiver Christian Edgerson for a 7-0 lead. The Bees stung back, taking a 14-7 lead behind an 8-yard touchdown pass from freshman quarterback Joe Labus to wide receiver Kenny Ganley and a 2-yard touchdown run by running back Alec Buckley. Vandemotter countered with a 5-yard touchdown run to tie the game up at 14 going into the half. In the third quarter, Labus found wide receiver Sam Wigloos for 3 touchdowns, covering 46, 11, and 7 yards. Their third touchdown was set up by a strip sack from defensive lineman Tanner Watson of Vandemotter, giving the Bees a very short field to extend their lead to 35-21 going into the fourth quarter. Twinsburg was able to cut the lead to 35-27 on a 2-yard run by running back Isaiah Savitt, which was his second TD of the game. The Tigers were able to get the ball back, but were turned over on downs at the 29-yard line as linebacker Michael Graham batted down a pass by quarterback Seth Grabowski. The Tigers had one last shot at the end of the game, and they thought they had a chance to tie it with a conversion after Grabowski found Edgerson for a 34-yard touchdown. However, the referees ruled offensive pass interference on Edgerson, and the Bees were able to hold off the Tigers for a 35-27 victory. Wow. Twinsburg quarterback Adam Vandemotter completed 12 of 22 passing for 229 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks. Seth Grabowski had completed 3 passes out of 11 attempts for 68 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Christian Edgerson caught 4 passes for 101 yards and had a touchdown. Running back Isaiah Savitt had 4 touches for 48 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brecksville freshman quarterback Joe Labus threw 4 touchdowns, 3 of which to wide receiver Sam Wigloos. I think it's actually written in the state law that Sam Wigloos has at least 2 touchdown catches a game.
I'd like to know how many he has on the season, because I think he's had at least 1 or 2 per game, really, it seems like.
If I do some quick math, I think he has at least 13. I mean, I think you're right. He has 2 touchdowns, I believe, at least in every game up to this point. He had 3 here.
Yeah.
Wigloos is really stepping up to help out his freshman quarterback.
Yeah, I was about to say that's a nice weapon to have for Labus, who's only a freshman, and I think he's starting to get a little bit more and more comfortable as he goes on throughout the season passing the ball, because to start it seemed like he wasn't throwing as much, and now he's airing it out a little more.
I think you see the coaches get a little more confidence in him too. I mean, when you graduate an all-world quarterback in Luke Sternad last year, Sternad was pretty much a coach on the field. So you have to go to the extreme opposite of that with Labus being a freshman. But obviously he shows the poise, and he has the intangibles to be able to run an offense on the varsity level at a young age. So he can only get better, and I'm really looking forward to following Brecksville Broadview Heights for the next 3 years to see where they can go with Labus. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do next year when Wigloos is gone. Senior running back Alec Buckley also contributed a rushing touchdown in the game. Twinsburg drops to 3-3 overall, 1-2 in the conference. They will square off at Stowe Munroe Falls in Week 7. Brecksville Broadview Heights improves to 4-2 overall, 2-1 in the conference. They are going to host Macedonia Nordonia. Next, the undefeated Wadsworth Grizzlies travel to Cuyahoga Falls to take on the winless Black Tigers. Wadsworth looked to continue the winning streak and run their record to 6-0 for the first time since 2011. The Black Tigers showed little resistance as the Grizzlies rolled to a 49-0 halftime lead. Quarterback Joey Bachman threw 4 touchdown passes, 2 each to wide receivers Mitchell Blackburn for 25 and 20 yards, and Christian Zalay for 15 and 14 yards, respectively. Running back Brock Snowball complemented the passing scores with 2 rushing touchdowns, covering 5 and 9 yards. Wadsworth's defense was phenomenal. They held Falls to negative 96 yards rushing and 37 total yards. Special teams also put points on the board as Brock Snowball returned a punt 35 yards for a touchdown, and Christian Zalay returned a kickoff 88 yards for a score. The punt return team also recorded 2 safeties to account for a final score of Wadsworth 59, Cuyahoga Falls 0. Bachman finished 16 of 23 passing for 214 yards and 4 touchdowns. Wide receiver Christian Zalay caught 4 passes for 76 yards and a touchdown. Mitchell Blackburn, 6 receptions, 90 yards, 2 touchdowns. Brock Snowball had 6 rushes for 36 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wadsworth ups their record to 6-0 overall, 3-0 in the conference. They will travel to North Royalton in Week 7. Cuyahoga Falls remains winless at 0-6 overall, 0-3 in the conference. They will travel to Hudson. All right. Stowe Munroe Falls, 4-1 overall, 1-1 in the conference. They travel to Macedonia to take on the Nordonia Knights, another winless team. Stowe jumped out to a quick 23-0 lead behind the arm and legs of quarterback Corian Rice. Quarterback Robbie Levick was able to counter with a touchdown pass to cut the lead to 23-7, but Stowe answered with a 45-yard touchdown pass from backup quarterback Hayden Bartles to wide receiver Tyler Shaver, restoring the lead to 29-7. The Bulldogs really poured it on in the Knights in the second half. They triggered the running clock, and they ran away with a 57-22 victory over the Knights. With the win, Stowe Munroe Falls improves to 5-1 overall, 2-1 in conference play. The Bulldogs will host Twinsburg next week. Macedonia Nordonia drops to 0-6 overall, 0-3 in the conference. They will host Brecksville Broadview Heights in Week 7. Now, my other game was actually the game of the week, so we will go over that here in a little bit. But my player of the week is actually going to be the players of the week. It was going to be the Wadsworth Special Teams. Not only they scored 2 touchdowns, and they also had 2 safeties.
Nice.
So that's 16 points accounted for just on special teams alone, and that's not counting extra points or anything like that. So, I get that Wadsworth played a team that is inferior to, much inferior to that of them, but they did what they were supposed to do. They shut them down early. They put some points on the board, and they were able to get some other players in to complement their program for that week. So, congratulations to Wadsworth's Wadsworth special teams units. 2 touchdowns and 2 safeties on the night. All right. Well, we'll shift over to the Suburban League American Division, where my cohort, my compadre, my colleague, my coworker, all those other C adjectives you can say, they're nouns. He wrote this up. Unfortunately, he is not able to read it, so I will take over for him. As we talked about earlier, he also had one of the games of the week, Aurora and Barberton, so we'll get to that here in a little bit as well. But we'll start in green, in Federal League country, where the Highland Hornets, 5-0 overall, 1-0 in the conference. 2-0 in the conference, took on the Green Bulldogs of the Federal League. A very, very competitive league down in the Canton area. You can't take any of these teams lightly. But Highland went down there. It was a sloppy game on the road. They committed 3 turnovers. One of those turnovers led to a touchdown for Green, and they constantly got in their own way, with turnovers and with penalties, and they were not able to sustain the drives that we're used to seeing them sustain over the course of the game. Jake Rogers from Highland, the all-everything player, he rushed for 127 yards and 2 touchdowns on 16 carries. He also had 6 catches for 43 yards. Highland quarterback Matthew Ernest, he had 18 carries for 68 yards. But at the end, Highland was able to stay undefeated, taking out the Bulldogs by a score of 14-7.
Wow!
For the Hornets there. That's a very tough game to have. You start conference play, then you have to because there are odd amount of teams in that division. You always have to play a non-conference game, and that's a heck of a challenge there, having to go to Green in the middle of your conference schedule. Green is a very very good team. They're a very tough team, despite what the record may say.
They're 3-3 so far, and their losses came to a 5-1 Ashland team, a 6-0 Canton McKinley team, and now Highland. So, and actually versus Ashland, they lost 31-28, McKinley 32-8. But I mean, those are pretty impressive teams that they've lost to, and they're right there. So, a tough loss for them against a very good Highland team.
Well, and this was a great win for Highland too. You went on the road to what I would consider a very unfamiliar opponent, and you're able to go into on their turf and get a tough win. Obviously, not a whole lot of things went right for them. They kept shooting themselves in the foot. 3 turnovers usually will doom you. And when you consistently have penalties that push you back or maybe push the other team forward, those are tough to overcome. So it just speaks to, it speaks to the type of team that they have out there with Coach Mike Gibbons, keeping them guys on an even keel, keeping them guys ready to roll, and they were able to overcome all that. And with the win, Highland improves to 6-0 overall. They're still 2-0 in conference play. They're going to have a huge home matchup with Aurora in Week 7.
Well, real quick, going a little further with this Highland matchup, a game like this will only help them when it comes playoff time as well, because you mentioned going to an unfamiliar opponent on the road. That's what you do in the playoffs. You go to an unfamiliar stadium. You play a lot of times an unfamiliar opponent, and if you're able to overcome mistakes, and penalties and all that stuff, and able to come away with a tough victory, that kind of experience will only help you as the playoffs draw near and into the playoffs.
They have some tough games. Looking down the line, their last 2 home games are against Talmadge 5-1 and Barberton 6-0. Not to mention a tough Copley team in Aurora. Aurora, even though they're a 2-4 team, they're still Aurora competitive. Yeah,
and
exactly.
They could be,
So they actually have a tough schedule to really finish the year out. Their last 4 games are pretty tough. That'll prepare them though for playoff time.
Absolutely. I mean, the good thing is for Highland, 3 out of those 4 games are at home. So they've been road warriors for the entire month. They've been road warriors. They had 1 home game in the month of September. So they're going to come back home. To their home field, and they're going to they're going to have Aurora, Talmadge, and Barberton coming into Medina to take them on. So the next 4 weeks are really obviously going to shape their team, and starting the season 6-0 is huge for them. If they happen to have a setback, they can absorb it right now.
Right.
But you can't have too many setbacks, especially with how tightly contested that region is. So it's going to be huge for the next week against Aurora. Might not be a lot of points on the line from a Highland standpoint, but like I said, Aurora's Aurora. They're going to come in ready to play. They're going to give them a tough matchup, and looking forward to seeing what the result of that game is going to be. All right, moving on to Talmadge, where the Talmadge Blue Devils took on the Kent Roosevelt Rough Riders. Talmadge was able to continue its winning ways as they dominated the visiting Rough Riders in Week 6. Talmadge running back Ty Shannon rushed for 3 touchdowns in the night to lead the Blue Devils scoring attack. Quarterback Sam Seeker also had a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown for the Blue Devils. Unfortunately for Kent Roosevelt, they just weren't able to get anything going offensively. They got a late touchdown when the game was already in running clock mode, but Talmadge had dominated from the opening kickoff, and they were able to glide to a 38-8 victory. Talmadge improves to 5-1 overall. They are 1-1 in the conference. They're going to travel to Copley in Week 7. Kent Roosevelt falls to 1-5 overall. They are 1-2 in the conference. They're going to host Revere in Week 7. If we look at Talmadge right now, they are number 2 in Division III, Region 9, just behind Canfield, who is actually almost a full 6 points ahead of Talmadge right now. Canfield is running away with the number 1 seed out in Division III, Region 9. Canfield's got some really good wins on their schedule, so that'll happen. But Talmadge is playing very tough right now, and they're setting themselves up for some really, really good playoff positioning in that region, where we see another team that we'll be talking about here shortly that also resides in that conference. All right, last and certainly not least, this was a game that actually was played on Thursday night between the Copley Indians and the Richfield Revere Minutemen. This was a tough game for Copley. Actually, Revere held a 24-17 lead at the half over the visiting Copley Indians. Minutemen running back Matt Buster had a 92-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, and he also scored on a 74-yard touchdown reception, and he had a 2-yard touchdown run on the night. So he did it in all 3 phases. He did it receiving, rushing, kickoff return. I mean, he just needed to intercept the pass and take that back for a touchdown to really complete it all. But the story of the game was Copley running back Blake Traylor. He had 4 second-half touchdowns. He scored on runs of 46, 26, 18, and 12 yards respectively. Copley's defense, after taking a little bit of a beating in the first half, they were able to hold the Minutemen and Buster to just 7 second-half points, and they were able to secure a much-needed road victory. Copley gets the win over Revere by a score of 52-31. Revere falls to 2-3 overall, 0-3 in the conference. They're going to seek their first conference win in Week 7 over. Oh, hold on a sec here. Yeah, that's what I thought. They're going to seek their first conference win over Kent Roosevelt. Revere is 2-4 overall. I'm sorry. Copley improves to 3-3 overall. They are 1-1 in the conference, and they have a very, very tough task ahead of them. They're going to host the Talmadge Blue Devils in Week 7. The American League, the American Division Player of the Week, as decided on by the Chocolate Milkman himself, Sean Duffy. He chose Copley running back Blake Traylor. As just previously discussed, he had 4 touchdowns in the second half. Very Al Bundy-like. He had runs of 46, 26, 18, and 12 yards respectively.
Man, that might be the best thing I've heard all day.
It's probably funny because probably most of these kids who are playing now don't even know what Married with Children is.
Or Al Bundy.
But
we do.
I was at the casino, and I saw this old guy walk by with a Polk High T-shirt that had Bundy on the back of it. It was the best thing I've ever seen. This was awesome. This dude had to been like 10 years older than my dad.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
I looked at that. I'm like, I need to get that shirt. Like that's
that is
phenomenal.
Classic.
That is great.
Great show, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. So you look at the games this week, and you kind of figured whoever is supposed to win pretty much won. Maybe not so much with Highland and Green because that was a pretty evenly contested matchup. But Talmadge a decided advantage over Kent Roosevelt. Give credit to Revere for hanging in there against a very tough Copley team. They had a lead at halftime. They just weren't able to sustain that for the final 24 minutes, and Copley was able to to run roughshod over them. So. If you're looking at the playoff picture there, we're looking at Highland, Barberton, and Talmadge right now are your 3 teams that are pretty much locked into a playoff spot at this moment. They're going to start having, Aurora and Barberton squared off. We'll talk about the game here shortly, but Highland's going to start squaring off against, they still have to square off against Talmadge and Barberton and Aurora. So
wow.
The top they're and Copley. So I mean, Highland's toughest part of their schedule is coming up here, and as we talked about earlier, they've built up a 6-0 record up to this point, and they've got a lot of good momentum going. And I can't imagine that Coach Gibbons over there is going to let them falter at any point in time. They've worked their way to get to this point, and there's a lot of points to be had in the next couple of weeks in the Suburban League American Division.
Yeah, I feel like with Highland, they've just been dominant so far this year. I mean, I don't even know if they've had a real close game. I mean, Brunswick, 28-14, that might be their closest game. I mean, they've just been so dominant. It's been unbelievable. And they've had a great season. They've played some really tough teams, and congratulations to them because they have been outstanding so far this year, just going up and down and beating some really good teams. And like you said, they have a tough schedule ahead. But one thing I like with them is they're playing the tough teams, and if they get through it all and then win the next 4, I mean, they are really ready for the playoffs, especially with that kind of schedule.
And they're going to want to set themselves up, too. I mean, because you're looking at Division II, Region 6. Right now, that's where Avon, Midview reside. You have a very, very tough Wadsworth team, Olmsted Falls, Amherst, North Olmsted. And if you expand that out a little bit more, you have Sylvania Northview, which is a very solid team.
Yeah.
Fremont Ross, White House Anthony Wayne. Those are some teams that are, if you could get those teams to come to your place instead of you going out to their place for Week 1 of the playoffs, you're going to set yourself up in a pretty good spot there, and you want to get in those top 4 seeds. And specifically in Division II, Region 6, you have 4 juggernauts right now in Avon, Midview, Highland, and Wadsworth.
I would love to see any 4 of those teams play each other. I mean, I think it would be like Highland and Avon. I would love to see a matchup like that, or Avon against Wadsworth. I think that would be just an absolute physical game that I would love to see.
Absolutely, and we've seen Wadsworth and Avon a couple times in the playoffs over the last couple of years. We covered a game between Highland and Avon, years back. If you throw Midview and Wadsworth would be a great game. There'd be a lot of points scored going on there. So, it's I'm trying to resist the urge to go deep into into what's going on with the playoffs, but it's fun to at least take a look at and see where teams are at.
Yep, it's going to get even more fun as the season goes along. But we'll step away. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll recap our Week 6 games of the week and tell you all about that and much more when we come back. We're live from Z's Cream and Bean. It's our Ohio High School football coverage, Week 6 recaps. We'll be right back.